There are some poems you hear everywhere, at graduations, in movies, plastered on motivational posters. But what if I told you that we've all been reading Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken completely wrong? Yeah, seriously. Let's dig in and see what's really going on.
Okay, so before we start pulling it apart, let's just listen. I want you to hear the whole thing, from start to finish. And try, if you can, to forget everything you think you know about it. Just listen to the words, especially how he describes the two paths. This is super important for what we're about to uncover.
Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth.
Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same.
And both that morning equally lay. In leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back.
I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
All right, so what's the takeaway? I mean, the popular version is pretty straightforward, right? It's all about rugged individualism, choosing your own way, taking that path that nobody else does. It's basically the poster child for nonconformity.
And that's the story we all know. The hero makes this brave, independent choice, and boom, it changes his life for the better. The message seems to be, don't follow the crowd, be different.
But is that really what Frost was saying? I'm not so sure. Let's take a closer look, because when you actually dig into the words, a much more complicated, and honestly way more fascinating story starts to emerge. We're going to go beyond the surface here.
Okay, time to read between the lines. And with a poet like Robert Frost, you've got to read between the lines. He was a master of being sneaky with his words. And all the clues we need? They're right there, hiding in plain sight.
I mean, right off the bat, Frost tells us the other path was just as fair, not better, not worse. He's not making a judgment call here. It's just an observation. One path isn't automatically the right one.
And the clues just keep coming. Frost actually goes out of his way to show us just how alike these two paths were. This was not some big, dramatic, life-or-death decision.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this comparison. The myth says it was a clear, better choice, but the poem, it says the other path was just as fair. The myth talks about a path few have taken, but Frost writes they had warned them really about the same. See the disconnect? The evidence in the poem itself points to a choice that was, well, almost random.
So if the choice itself wasn't this huge, dramatic moment, then what's the point of the poem? Well, it's all about the ending. It's not about the choice he made, but about the story he's going to tell about that choice. The real action here isn't in the past, it's in the future. He says he'll be telling this story ages and ages hence, so way down the road. He's not just remembering something that happened. He's actively building a narrative, crafting a story to give that moment meaning.
And then we get to what might be the most important word in the whole poem. A sigh. Not a shout of triumph, not a confident declaration. A sigh. And that one little word changes everything.
This really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? What kind of sigh are we talking about here? Is it a happy sigh? A sad one? It's not nearly as simple as it seems. Think about it. That sigh could be anything, couldn't it? It could be satisfaction, but it could also be regret. Or maybe it's this kind of wistful self-deception. The speaker seems to be building his own legend, right? He's looking back and deciding to frame this moment as the one that mattered, even though he told us earlier that the roads were pretty much identical.
So, what about that famous last line? And that has made all the difference. If the roads were the same, how could the choice possibly make all the difference?
Because the difference he's talking about, it's not the road, it's the story. It's the meaning we slap onto our choices after the fact to make sense of our lives. The real difference is the narrative we create for ourselves. So, when you get right down to it, this poem is this incredibly deep look at how we build our own life stories. We look back at these random forks in the road and we turn them into these epic, defining moments because we need them to be. And that kind of brings it all back to us, doesn't it? It leaves us with this big question. What are the stories you tell yourself about the paths you've taken? And maybe, just maybe, how have those stories, and not the paths themselves, made all the difference?